During the update on encampments and homelessness, Barrie City staff reported that all county-operated warming centers are fully open and available to anyone in need, with clear directions that no one is to be turned away. However, there are some exceptions. Barrie Mayor Alex Nuttall clarified that warming centers enforce safety rules, including prohibitions on active substance use inside the facilities. However, individuals are not refused entry simply for appearing under the influence.
If an individual comes to a warming center and it's like minus 26 outside and they are deemed to be under the influence of something when they are turned away, or maybe I should be addressing whoever
Yeah, sorry,
would know that.
but that's you're asking a different question than what I just
Yes,
stated.
yes.
Right?
I'm just wondering if we have any understanding of what happens to that individual.
Yeah, but that's not what was stated. What was stated was
Okay.
that if an individual is currently
Okay, yeah.
engaging in the behavior, so if they're not going to tolerate smoking crack inside of the warming center.
So you're not saying somebody that might be under the influence when they arrive?
Correct.
Okay.
There's always referrals to paramedic. If it's a violent altercation, obviously they have to have the support from either police or security services.
Staff also reported that since the mayor's emergency declaration in September 2025, 79 encampments on city-owned property have been addressed and 73 individuals have been transitioned indoor with support, while only 5 people remain in encampments. Staff did not make clear how many people were living in those encampments initially or how many individuals remain outdoors without assistance. Council also recognized 16 local youth for their outstanding musical achievements at the provincial and national levels through Barrie Kiwanis Music Festival. Liz Bilo, Festival Director of the Barrie Kiwanis Music Festival, spoke to us about the organization's achievements and the application process.
We have a website, barriemusicfestival.com, and now is perfect timing because we're in the middle of registration for this year's festival. The festival runs in April, and our registration closes on February 16th. So any students that are studying in any of these areas, and one of the things that we're really trying to drive home is that it's not just classical piano and operatic singing, it's popular things as well. So if you play guitar, if you play pop piano, if you like to sing like Katy Perry, then we have something for everyone. Living in Barrie, our students don't necessarily get all the same opportunities that someone living in Toronto might get. We work very hard to try to level that playing field and ensure that our Barrie students are getting the best opportunities to make the most out of the learning that they'd like to have in music.
During the meeting, Council also approved zoning amendments for new developments, with Councillor Bryn Hamilton raising concerns about parking and snow removal in high-density areas. Staff confirmed that updated design standards have been implemented to address these issues. To address the ongoing garbage collection issue downtown, a direct motion by Councillor Craig Nixon was unanimously passed to launch a pilot project for enhanced waste collection in the downtown BIA area. The project aims to tackle long-standing concerns over litter and illegal dumping. Councillors emphasized the importance of swift action while maintaining cost oversight. Councillor Anne-Marie Kangal announced that several new physicians have recently joined the community and over 2,500 individuals have already been successfully matched with primary care providers. If you do not have access to a family physician or nurse practitioner, you are encouraged to call 811 or visit health811.ontario.ca and click on Find a Service. There is still room for more patients, especially for residents in Barrie with postal codes L4M or L4N. A presentation from Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority addressed rising chloride levels in the Lake Simcoe watershed. The presentation outlined environmental risks linked to road salt use and featured a case study showing that best practices can reduce salt use by 50% without compromising safety. The presenters advocated for adopting a New Hampshire-style limited liability model to encourage better salt management. Committee members discussed legal implications, watershed treatment cost, public education, and recognized the City of Barrie's leadership in reducing salt use. The meeting also approved a phased financial referral for the Sandbox Center and appointed Councillor Sergio Morales to its board. Following are our interviews and coverage of the meetings.
Barrie City Council is recognizing our students who had some outstanding provincial and national results at music festivals this year. So we run a local festival that has over 400 participants in it. But from that local festival, we had 84 students that were recommended on to compete at the provincial finals of the Ontario Music Festivals Association, which is a conglomeration of all of the local music festivals from across the province. So we had 84 students go on. We had a number that were gold medalists at that provincial final. And we also had 10 students who were recommended on to the qualifying round for the national finals of the Federation of Canadian Music Festivals. And of those 10 students, we had 6 that earned the invitation to go on to nationals. So the program is our local music festival, and it is run by a board of directors that is a combination of members of the Kiwanis Club of Barrie, as well as the Barrie Music Festival Association, which is a group of people that have come together because they feel that music education is important and that this festival provides an opportunity to support that in our community. So we work year-round to organize the festival. It runs every April for 5 weeks. We have junior piano, intermediate piano, senior piano weeks. We have a week of classical voice, a week of musical theater. There is some overlap there in some of those things. And we also have a week of bands, woodwinds, brass, and a week of strings as well. We have a website, barriemusicfestival.com. And now is perfect timing because we're in the middle of registration for this year's festival. The festival runs in April, and our registration closes on February 16th. So any students that are studying in any of these areas, and one of the things that we're really trying to drive home is that it's not just classical piano and you know, operatic singing, it's popular things as well. So if you play guitar, if you play pop piano, if you like to sing like Katy Perry, then we have something for everyone.
Mayor especially thanked you for running the program, for bringing everyone together. So how does that feel, the acknowledgement for you as well as for the program?
Yeah, it's nice to be acknowledged, and he did acknowledge the entire committee, the Kiwanians and our BMFA members as well that make up the board. Everybody works hard to make the festival happen, and I am a retired music teacher. I spent 32 years teaching in the high schools, and I know how important these opportunities are. Living in Barrie, our students don't necessarily get all the same opportunities that someone living in Toronto might get. We work very hard to try to level that playing field and ensure that our Barrie students are getting the best opportunities to make the most out of the learning that they'd like to have in music.
And I'll start with Mr. Schmidt maybe and go from there. So Mr. Schmidt, over to you, 3.1 through 3.7.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I'll actually defer the updates on the facilities to Mr. Hughes, and then I'll circle back and provide an update on encampments if you're okay with that.
That's great. Thank you. Mr. Hughes.
Your worship, members of the committee, several updates for you tonight. Performing Arts Center, so following council's approval of the additional rehearsal hall space as part of the design, staff have been in discussion with various external user groups and are conducting a programming analysis for the space based on feedback received. Staff very clearly heard and understood council's direction of up to 5,000 square feet. And the intent of this work is to be able to maximize the use of the space while minimizing the footprint. Once we're finished with that work, HPA will be asked to complete the appropriate design revisions for it. We wanted to not have them involved in the weeds because that will come with the bill. So we're just conscious of that as we can move along. I don't have an update on the sports field. On the Lakehead University project, this project is moving along very quickly. Demolition at 24 Maple Avenue is complete and reconstruction of the space is well underway at this point. Staff continue to work with our Lakehead colleagues to coordinate the installation of necessary base building elements required to accommodate the furniture, fixtures, and equipment that Lakehead are supplying. And a STEM Hub Memorandum of Understanding developed between Lakehead and the city was signed earlier this month. Don't have an update on the recreation center either. We're not doing any work on that. The roadways down in the area, the whole site is inaccessible. So that'll be a future project for us. On the Sea Cadet South Shore facility, the project team is currently finalizing the design package incorporating pre-consult meeting comments and are on track to submit their formal site plan application package to the city next week. For final review. Construction is expected to begin in the spring as soon as weather allows. And for the Northwest Library branch, Letitia Heights, there's no significant update since the last meeting. The landlord continues to work with their architect on the facility expansion permit plans and believe they are on track for spring construction. The city and library staff are prepared to begin interior layout planning as soon as the expansion details are finalized by the landlord.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall, and good evening, Mayor Nuttall, members of committee. City staff continue to work in partnership with the County of Simcoe and the Barrie Police Service in addressing encampments on city-owned property. The city has successfully addressed 79 encampments on city-owned property since the emergency declaration came into effect on September 9th, 2025. Through county outreach efforts, 73 individuals have been transitioned from encampments to safe indoor accommodations and are connected to resources through the Heart Hub. Since the declaration, the number of encampments on city-owned property has decreased from 35 to 2, demonstrating measurable progress. Of the remaining sites, there are approximately 5 individuals residing in these encampments. And again, this is on city-owned property. As of January 19th, 2026, and based on data provided by the County of Simcoe through their Homelessness Individuals and Families Information System, HIFIS, there are 641 active homeless individuals linked to Barrie, which is a slight increase from the 604 that was reported back in December. The county confirms that this is primarily attributable to more people accessing shelter facilities and support services, especially in extreme cold weather. When individuals check into a shelter, they are recorded in HIFIS. This likely means that the rise in numbers reflects increased engagement with county services rather than an actual surge in homelessness. So of those 640 individuals, and I think this message really needs to be conveyed, homelessness does not equal encampments. So put that out there. Of the 641 individuals, 169 have been linked to shelters such as the Salvation Army, Busby, Elizabeth Fry, Youth Haven, and such. 36 other individuals have been linked to couch surfing. Approximately 5 individuals, as I noted earlier, are currently living in encampments. And there's approximately 436 individuals that have been linked to what the HIFIS categorizes as other, which includes living arrangements that are not formal shelters or couch surfing, so vehicles, hotels, motels, detoxification facilities, incarceration, and such. So these individuals have been logged into HIFIS within the last 90 days, and if they have not been formally linked to a shelter, couch surfacing, or engagement, they are typically identified as other. So again, just trying to provide some further justification or information on how HIFIS reports. Cleanup efforts have been completed at Milligan's Pond in preparation for the site to be included in the Conservation Trust, and the park remains closed at this time. The County of Simcoe has received final occupancy and will soon open its 40-bed modular units at 113 Tiffin Street to offer supportive housing and to support the city's emergency order. All warming centers remain fully operational and open to anyone in need. If anyone becomes aware of an individual being denied entry, we ask that you please promptly report the incident to the county so it can be addressed immediately. The county has confirmed that all service providers have been reminded that no one is to be turned away, and each provider has verified that no one has been denied entry. And finally, the city remains committed to a compassionate and coordinated response, working closely with the County of Simcoe, Barrie Police Services, and other community stakeholders. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Just one caveat I wanted to, if it's okay, rather than ask, I'll just comment on. It should be noted that when it comes to they're not ours, they're the county's out of the cold or warming centers, the rules of not engaging in addictive behaviors in the centers are enforced. So if an individual is doing something that is getting high, getting drunk, that's not tolerated in those warming or cooling centers when they're operational. Obviously warming centers right now, cooling centers in the summertime. But just as a caveat in terms of when it said that no one's turned away, that there's no one turned away as long as they're not currently engaging in that activity. Okay? We'll go to questions on anything from 3.1 to 3.7. I think I saw Deputy Mayor with your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. And it's not a question, but just in regards to the Letitia Heights Library yesterday, the Committee of Adjustments approved the variance. So it's actually moving ahead real well. So just a little update.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions or comments from anyone?
I'm not on.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Mr. Schmidt. Just some clarification about the warming centers. So if an individual comes to a warming center and it's like minus 26 outside and they are deemed to be under the influence of something when they are turned away, or maybe I should be addressing whoever
Yeah, sorry,
would know that.
but that's you're asking a different question than what I just
Yes.
stated.
Yes.
Right?
I'm just wondering if we have any understanding of what happens to that individual.
Yeah, but that's not what was stated. What was stated
Okay.
was that if an individual is currently
Okay. Yeah.
engaging in the behavior, so if they're not going to tolerate smoking crack inside of the warming center.
So you're not saying somebody that might be under the influence when they arrive?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the clarification.
And there's always referrals in the scenario where somebody's in the midst of a I don't know what the right word is, being under the influence. Maybe I'll steal your language. There's always referrals to paramedic. If it's a violent altercation, obviously they have to have the support from other police or security services. And so those things are their tools are actively used based on what's needed at that time.
Yes, thank you for that clarification. I am mindful of the safety of people that are in shelter or in warming centers, but the need to be able to keep people from freezing is important too. So yeah, thank you for the clarification on that.
The good news is there's trained professionals in there that care about the people and hopefully get them to the right place. Any other questions or comments on these subjects, these updates? I'm not seeing any. So that's actually going to bring us to adjournment.
I will move to consent items number 7 on your agenda, reports of advisory committees. There are 4 advisory committee reports to be received. Are there any concerns with any of the advisory committee reports? If none, I will consider them all to be received on consent. I'll just read them out quickly. 7.1, report of the Arts Advisory Committee dated November 25th, 2025. Report of the Youth Council dated December 1st. Report of the Communities in Bloom Committee dated December 2nd. And report of the Sustainability Advisory Committee dated January 8th. Seeing no issues, questions, or concerns, they are all approved. We go back to number 1 on our agenda. There's no public meetings tonight and no open delegations. So that brings us to presentations. And there is one presentation on the agenda this evening. This presentation is by the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority concerning chloride in Lake Simcoe watershed. I would like to call on Don Goodyear, the General Manager of Integrated Watershed Management, and Bill Thompson, Manager, Watershed Plans and Strategies, to the podium to deliver the presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of committee. Very much appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Bill and I, as you mentioned, are going to speak to you about chloride in the Lake Simcoe watershed. I'll start off by giving a snapshot of kind of the status of chloride in the lake and the tributaries around the watershed, and then Bill will take over and speak to some of the opportunities to manage some of the challenges that we'll flag for you. So just starting off here, this graph here is chloride concentration measured at Atherley Narrows. The blue dots represent measured chloride concentrations, and you can see a pretty steady incline from the period of record when we started measuring back in the 70s up to most recently 64.2 milligrams per liter this past year. The red line on the top of that graph is the Canadian Council of Ministers of the Environment chronic guideline. That's the point at which the more sensitive species in the lake are going to suffer some consequences. So you can see we're on a relentless climb towards that line, and we're trying to turn the curve, if you will. So where does that salt come from in the lake? Clearly, the tributaries that flow into Lake Simcoe are the source. And what this figure is showing is the trend in chloride concentration over the last 10 years or so. All of the arrows are where the points where we measure chloride and other parameters. You can see we have no down arrows on this map. They're all increasing trends in chloride concentration, and the yellow side-to-side arrows are where we don't have a significant trend. But generally speaking, across the watershed, we're seeing an increase in chloride concentration in all of the rivers that flow into Lake Simcoe. Apologies for the busyness of this slide, but an upward trend is one thing, but what does that mean in terms of how much chloride is there? So what we're conveying in this figure here is how many of the samples taken exceed that chronic guideline that I mentioned in the first graph, 120 milligrams per liter, and what percentage of samples taken over the last decade exceed the acute guideline, which is the point at which some sensitive species cannot survive. So the top number, percentage of samples that exceed the chronic guideline, and the bottom number, percentage of samples that exceed the acute guideline. So you can see some pretty big numbers around the watershed. In the urban areas, they're more significant. And these are samples from all year long. So even in summer conditions, we're getting some exceedances of these guidelines. And I'll just bring your attention down in the Newmarket area, the 94/46, that's Western Creek, that I'm going to zoom in on here. It's kind of our perfect storm, if you will. It's not that Newmarket does anything bad. They're actually quite proactive in terms of their roads management, as most of the municipalities across the watershed are. But this is kind of, as I mentioned, the perfect storm for this challenge. It's a very small catchment. It's highly urbanized. The red line encompasses a lot of industrial, commercial, institutional land use. So we've got a lot of hard surfaces that require winter maintenance, and not a lot of green spaces to buffer the salty runoff that comes off of those hard surfaces. The picture on the left-hand side of the screen is the instrument that we installed in this creek to get we normally take bi-weekly measurements. Every 2 weeks, take a measurement of chloride concentration manually. We installed an instrument in Western Creek knowing it was a kind of a challenging area to get more frequent concentrations measured. And that's what this graph shows here, is the concentrations measured over a couple of years in Western Creek. And we've got a new threshold to introduce. So way down at the bottom of the screen, the yellow and dash red lines are the acute and chronic guidelines. That you can see are exceeded most of the time in Western Creek. That new line to introduce is the concentration of ocean water. So at 3 points in the winter last year in Western Creek, the river flowed saltier than the ocean. Obviously not a good thing. It's the kind of thing we think may be happening in other places, but we don't have these instruments everywhere. But certainly this is a challenging spot. One more bit of science nerd stuff before I pass it on to Bill to get into policy and opportunities to deal with it. We wanted to explore the assumption that more salt is better in terms of safety in parking lots and walkways. So what we are trying to show here is on the right, the 60 gram per meter squared is the recommended rate of salt application to maintain a safe surface. But I'm sure we've all seen salt on the ground that looks more like the pictures on the left. Much more salt than is actually required to maintain a safe surface. But is that safer than the minimum required? So we purchased a friction tester to explore that, and don't need to know much about the MU value, but 0.5 or higher is a safe surface. Lower than 0.5 is slippery and unsafe to walk on. So what we can see here is that a minimally salted but still wet surface on the left is very safe to walk on, compared to a dry but overly salted surface on the right, because the salt actually acts like marbles. It's slippery underfoot. So not surprisingly, you get more friction, a less safe surface. Similarly, a snowy walkway that's just been shoveled but not salted is about as slippery as an over-salted but dry walkway. And finally, just trying to get a sense of how does this compare to surfaces we walk on every day. We took some measurements on the right, that's the basement of our office, and on the left is a public space nearby. Both of those are less than the 0.5 threshold, but we walk on those every day in high heels and patent leather shoes and what have you without slip, trips, and falls. So we're really kind of pushing the notion here, or trying to dispel the notion here that more salt is better. But we do live in a northern climate, and I'll let Bill take it from here.
So, as you heard from Don, salt is a real challenge for Lake Simcoe and its tributaries. But we're not here to say stop using salt. As Don said, this is Canada, we get winter. This year, a particularly bad one. So the challenge in front of us is actually a more difficult one of maintaining public safety in winter while also maintaining the health of the lake and its tributaries. Now, the good news is there's a number of best practices developed to provide guidance to practitioners on how to achieve that balance. Some produced by municipal organizations like Good Roads, some by industry associations, some by organizations like ours, and some by combinations thereof. The challenge, though, or the reality is that there are real barriers to adoption of some of these better practices, and we hear about them every time we present on this topic. Questions around, if I change my level of service, am I going to expose myself to more liability? What's it going to do to the cost of maintaining this property? And what's public feedback going to be in terms of either constituents or customers to this property? Now, we've been very fortunate over the past number of years, and we've been able to watch a couple of organizations shift from more conventional practices to better practices, to collect some data while that happened, and work up a couple of case studies to look at the costs and benefits from a triple bottom line standpoint of both conventional and better practices. And I want to share quickly with you tonight one of those examples. So this is a big box store in our watershed that they were very generous to allow us to monitor their parking lot for a period of about 10 years. So that included monitoring how they managed the parking lot in the winter, but also the water quality flowing off it into the local stormwater pond. The only thing they ask in return is that they remain anonymous, so we call them Parking Lot C. Now, we got extra lucky over the course of this 10-year period is that they changed their contractor halfway through. That gave us a chance to compare two different operational approaches. So again, keeping anonymity in the forefront, we'll call them Contractor A in the first half of the study and Contractor B in the second half of the study. Now, these contractors had some interesting similarities and some interesting differences. Obviously, they're both managing the same property, had the same client, they had largely the same equipment, and they had the same fundamental interest of keeping their client happy, their business afloat, and public safe. Operationally, though, they differed in really interesting ways. So Contractor A, the first half, is a fairly traditional contractor, practices similar to what we see elsewhere in the watershed. And they have kind of a set application rate of salt to use on this parking lot. So every time there's a winter weather event, they send the truck out with a certain amount of salt and they put that salt on the parking lot. If it's a really bad event, they might send the truck out twice. Contractor B, conversely, used what we would consider better practices. So every time there's a winter weather event, Contractor B sent a person out. And that person used their professional judgment to determine if the weather was indeed about to hit the property, if it might have been a false alarm, or if it might just miss the property on that particular day. They also made an assessment of the amount of residual salt on the pavement. So that allowed them to create a prescription for that property on that day to that winter weather event. And the difference in the two is really striking, as you can see in this figure here. So this figure shows the total amount of salt used to maintain this parking lot on an annual basis over the course of this 10-year period, with Contractor A shown in blue and Contractor B shown in red. So what we saw is, on average, Contractor A, that more traditional contractor, went out more frequently per year and put down more salt when they did go out, with the end result being that Contractor B, who used the better practices, maintained the same surface with half as much salt. Now, you might say every winter is different. Maybe Contractor B got lucky and had lighter winters. That doesn't seem to be the case here. The dotted line in the back of this graph is the total amount of precipitation received in each of the winters. So you can see there's no obvious trend in this. And more to the point, the municipality where this parking lot is located went out more often in the second half of the study than the first half of the study, right? So this doesn't seem to be Contractor B getting lucky. This seems to be Contractor B being very good at their job and using best practices that do work. Our estimate is Contractor B probably saved about $40,000 a year in material costs. We don't have the study underway this year. I think we'd find that number quite a bit higher this year because the cost of salt, of course, is spiking this year. And most importantly, over the course of this 10-year period, there were no slips, trips, and falls in the parking lot and no complaints from either customers to property managers or from the store managers to the contractors. So this does show that it can be done, right? We can maintain paved surfaces in a way that's safe, that reduces our environmental footprint because we're using less salt, and that at least sometimes can save us a bit of money while we're at it. It's not easy, though. You need to have someone who has that expertise to make that professional judgment on the day as to what that surface needs. So contractor training is vital. Good information on the condition of the property is vital. And then contractors need to be empowered to make the decisions that they need to make based on their training, their expertise. So that's what brings Dawn and I here tonight is while we see that best practices do work, we've not seen them being adopted in our watershed as much as we would like. And the reason for that remains liability, probably to no one's surprise. Now, we do think New Hampshire has solved the liability problem, and so we often talk about something we call the New Hampshire model. So New Hampshire has a very similar challenge that we do in that they're seeing increasing chloride concentrations in their freshwater resources, and they have a very similar law that we do. In Ontario, we call it the Occupiers Liability Act, and that act, as I'm sure you all know, says essentially that anyone who owns or manages a property owes a duty of care to people visiting that property to keep them safe while they're there. What New Hampshire did was they amended their version of that law a number of years ago to say that if you can demonstrate that you are a contractor who's taken state-recognized training, you've passed a state-recognized exam, and you've followed state-recognized best practices, you're deemed to meet that duty of care. And in fact, the person who hired you is deemed to meet their duty of care as well. And so they're seeing that in New Hampshire is really driving adoption of better practices because this is a massive carrot for contractors to adopt those better practices. And we think this can be applied in Ontario as well. Again, we've got a similar issue with Lake Simcoe and other lakes across Ontario. We have those best practices that were developed in Ontario by industry and by municipalities and others. We have a very similar law that New Hampshire does. We have a training and certification program developed here in Ontario called the Smart About Salt program. And most importantly, there's broad support for this approach, not only in groups like ours who are responsible for watershed management, but in industry as well. Contractors and their client base are really supportive of this approach because they're seeing their insurance costs skyrocket over the past number of years. And so that they see this as really providing them some certainty that they can maintain their insurance costs by adopting better practices. So that's why we are here before you tonight. Our board of directors at the Conservation Authority passed a resolution last summer endorsing the New Hampshire approach and recommending that the province of Ontario adopt something similar. And we've been asked to do presentations of this sort to councils and committees across the watershed. So while I have the floor for a moment, though, I will also say there are other things that cities can do to promote the adoption of better practices. One of the things I'd like to recommend is those municipalities who do contract out parking lots, think about requiring your contractors to become trained and certified. And the reason I suggest that is because we still don't have many trained and certified contractors active in the watershed, which makes it very difficult for individual property owners to hire those contractors. So anytime I'm talking to a municipality or a school board that have perhaps a larger portfolio of properties, larger contracts, maybe multiple contracts, I try to recommend that they make training and certification a requirement of their contracts in the belief that that would increase the number of certified contractors on the landscape, therefore making it easier for individual property owners to hire similar trained and certified contractors. Again, the importance of good weather data is critically important for contractors making those difficult decisions. We know municipalities have invested a lot in very sophisticated weather data, including the city of Barrie. So any latitude you have to share that data with your contractors or contractors active in the city, that would help them make these important decisions. And then finally, while we're here talking about parking lots, because that's where the New Hampshire model applies, I think it's worth noting that roads, of course, are another big part, or a big source rather, of pavement across the watershed, and therefore another area that gets a lot of salt. We know as well that a lot of municipalities are doing a lot to reduce their salt usage while maintaining public safety, and Barrie is certainly a leader in that. Barrie, as far as we know, is the only municipality that's done a salt optimization strategy, where staff have gone through their practices with a fine-tooth comb to identify areas where they can tweak what they do to maintain public safety while reducing the amount of salt they use. So certainly staff and council should be congratulated for taking that approach, and I think that approach of continual incremental improvement should be encouraged to continue, because I'm sure your qualified and experienced staff may find other ways to improve practices as time goes on. So with that, Madam Chair, thank you much for your time, and happy to take any questions if the committee has any.
Thank you both for that informative presentation. I will go first to members of committee if there's any questions. And Mayor Nettle.
Yeah, thanks so much, Councillor Hamilton. Thanks for the presentation this evening. I have a few questions, and I guess my first would be, what do the naysayers about the New Hampshire approach say? What's the opposition?
Through you, Madam Chair, I've never heard any naysayers directly, but I do know that there is scuttlebutt, perhaps, that, well, the pushback I've heard has been from the legal community, that lawyers like to be able to defend their clients. The end result, I believe they're finding in New Hampshire is they're finding other ways to defend their clients, right? That's a good lawyer will always find a way to defend their clients. But on the whole, again, contractors in New Hampshire are very happy with it. Property owners are very happy with it. Insurance companies appear to be open to the idea because, again, they're seeing their costs skyrocket as well. And so this would be a way for them to manage their costs. So the pushback, such as it is, would be from those lawyers representing their clients.
So as much as I believe that lawyers want to defend people to make money, I also believe that insurance companies want to reduce liability to not pay out.
Yes.
So there's two sides to that coin. And I guess my question is, what legal advice or what consultation have you done with the legal community? And you don't want to make rules based on the worst case scenario or the best case scenario. You want to make rules based on what is, most plausible. I would hate to see us say, okay, limit the liability, and then somebody gets seriously hurt, no longer be able to go to the insurance company for which the insurance is paid to then deal with the issue. And people would be surprised how often a fall results in a disability, right? It can be just that quick. And so is there, consultation that's been completed to this point? Is there something we can point to on that front?
Again, through you, Madam Chair. So before getting into the consultation piece, I will say that negligence would still be an issue, right? So if someone didn't follow the best practices, didn't take the training, they would still be negligent. And so to your point, yes, in those cases, there would certainly be a strong case against them. But I don't disagree that slips and falls can happen, even under everyone's best intentions. With respect to consultation, we've had something we call the Freshwater Roundtable that we've convened for since 2019. That roundtable includes folks like ourselves. It includes, again, contractors and the client base, but it also includes representatives from the insurance industry, and there is a lawyer on that group from Gowling WLG acting as a pro bono advisor to that group. So while there hasn't been formal consultation in the sense of developing provincial policy, we have had this broad stakeholder conversation. It's been ongoing for some years now.
Okay, thanks. Two more questions for you. One is desalination. What type of investments can we make? Because, you're talking about the rivers, but I also looked at the stats, and then you demonstrated it through the urban areas being clearly high contributors to salt inside of Lake Simcoe and inside of the streams, et cetera, that are going down. But probably our highest flow rates would actually come out of our sewage treatment plant, our wastewater facility. What can be done to reduce salt rates at the exit flow?
Excuse me, through you, Madam Chair. That's a great question. I think our data suggests that paved surfaces and winter management is the kind of primary source of chloride concentration in the lake. But you're quite right. There are not insignificant concentrations of chloride within wastewater. Reverse osmosis, quaternary treatment is the only way to take, because it's dissolved, the only way to take chloride out of wastewater. That's an extremely expensive upgrade to wastewater treatment plants and extremely energy intensive, so the operating costs would also be significant. So I couldn't quote exact numbers, but I do know that the Upper York sewage system that was proposed in the southern part of the watershed did suggest quaternary treatment, that reverse osmosis, and the capital cost to build the proposed plant were in the $500 million and up from original estimates.
Okay, that's a $500 million increase in the cost, or was that the total?
$500 million capital cost to build a reverse osmosis treatment plant. To upgrade to reverse osmosis on an existing plant would be in the hundreds of millions.
I'll wait to the end. Probably get asked anyways.
Any other questions from members of the committee? Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the presenters. In the New Hampshire, so they take education and then there's a monitoring process. Like, is there an organization that goes out and quantifies the salt purchased, applied, and if they receive the badge or being a certified, thank you. If they fail after they're certified and then they go back to old practices, pounding the salt, is there a penalty, or is it just losing the certified?
So through you, Madam Chair, I believe the penalty would be losing the certification. So in New Hampshire, yeah, there is a training program that you would be required to take, and there's an exam at the end of that course, and there is a periodic recertification, be it 3 years or 5 years, that you're required to undertake. It's the state that provides that program. There is some level of auditing, but primarily it's around providing the contractor the ability to defend themselves in court. And so there's a certain level of trust that ensures the contractors follow those best practices and document what they've done, because the ability to protect yourself from a claim, and I've said court, but from a claim even if it's settled outside of court, there's huge financial incentives to that.
And just to follow up, has there ever been a consideration of, like, you look at the ISO 2000, 9001, core certification allows you to tender, and if you don't have it, MTO ratings were another practice that put you on short bid lists and stuff. Has there ever been any consideration to bringing in a certification, and if you lose it, you're unable to tender, or the municipality can boycott you from or suspend you from bidding the work? Has that ever been a consideration?
Through you, Madam Chair, a number of years ago, Smart About Salt Council engaged the Canadian Safety Council to develop such a standard. There was some early exploratory work, and I believe the CSC declined to develop the standard because they didn't see the return on investment for themselves as an organization. So unfortunately, that didn't really progress very far.
Thanks very much for the presentation.
Any other questions from members of the committee? I have one or two as well here. Just, and it's a question actually for staff. I'm not sure who to direct it to without Mr. Ferrari here, but just in terms of current training that any of our contractors take right now with respect to salt application. This time.
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe we don't require our contractors to be Smart About Salt trained at the moment. We do offer the training, and I believe we pay for it for contractors to take it, or at least we did in the past, but I can follow up with you on what the current practice is.
Sure, that would be great. Thank you. And then a question for the presenters. Just you mentioned your advocacy with the provincial government, and as a result of that, you're on a bit of a roadshow right now with municipalities. What was the input from government, or what would you be looking for from municipalities to further that conversation?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. The request that we've been making is a council resolution supporting that limited liability framework here in Ontario. We have at the Conservation Authority Board of Directors penned letters to the Attorney General and the Minister of Environment. So any lending your voice to those pleas is what we're hoping to achieve by this roadshow.
Okay. And just the impacts to date, are they reversible if municipalities improve their performance or behavior in the future, or are we just looking to mitigate any further impact?
Through you, I believe the short answer to that is that salt is persistent in the environment. We have to wait for it to basically flush its way through the system, so to speak. And what we're really hoping to do is just stop that incline that we've seen in both in tributaries and in the lake. As Bill mentioned, we recognize that balancing public safety with these environmental considerations is a challenge. So I'm not sure that we can expect to reverse the trend, but if we can hold it steady to where we are today, I think we'd consider that a win.
Thank you. It is a timely conversation. I think just hearing, given where we're at right now with this winter and the challenges we've been facing, and I think certainly public expectation is a barrier as well. So I find this helpful and valuable, and I think it's a good opportunity to engage with the public. It's been educational for me. So again, spreading that awareness and education I think is important. I'm not sure the education strategy, but I'm sure one exists. But yeah, I am assuming public expectation is a bit of a barrier at this point. Any questions for members of non-committee? I'll go to Councillor Rietma first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess just a couple of comments first. I think that a lot of our businesses that own, say, plazas and big parking lots, they really struggle getting contractors to do their plowing work, especially their salting work, because of the liability that's attached to it. And as a consequence, I think that, first of all, contractor prices go up. And also, the insurance cost is a big part of that. And as a consequence, they also put out a lot of salt on much more than they really need to do in order to kind of cover themselves. So I think, from a strictly business point of view, doing something to reduce the amount of salt that contractors are likely to use is a really good start. My question is really towards let me make one more comment, and that is the comment was made on our city streets. I saw some numbers, and I think, don't hold me to this, but I think over the last 20 years, we have reduced the amount of salt that we use on City of Barrie streets per mile by about 2/3. So I think from the public's side of it, we are really making very good progress over these years. Now I think it's time to start thinking about some of the big parking lots that school boards, shopping plazas, industrial areas, so that we really should help them save money, I think is really, and save the environment. I think both of those happen at the same time. Now, my question is to staff is, we have a lot of, and we use a lot of weather information in terms of figuring out how much salt to put on our roads. Do we regularly share, or can we share that information with contractors?
We do have Dave Ferrari on. Is it possible that he can answer that question? No? Okay. I will look into that and get back to you. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Through you, Chair Hamilton, to Councillor Rietma, we do share that information.
Excellent, thank you. I think I saw one more question from Councillor Kungl.
Thank you, Chair Hamilton. Through you, so thank you, Bill and Don. I guess one question would be, I'm thinking about the presentation in two different ways. So one is the ask around this potential adoption with respects to the New Hampshire model. And the other one for me is, what else can we ask if there's this huge variance between getting to that end goal that you have? And so as you're coming out with this ask or proposal, even if people don't get to that end outcome or that's not achieved, where potentially is this campaign also giving targets potentially? And Councillor Hamilton's question made me think about this, which is you've got the rates around salt and chlorine in the water, and we're trying to adjust it down, or at least stop the compound impact of the current rates, at least until, for sake of not being scientific here, like cleaning or titrating out, right? And so is there a percentage by which this would also come in hand with a goal to say, ideally, if you can at least cut your salt usage by a particular percent minimum, it can have a compounding impact across the watersheds that are feeding into Lake Simcoe, where we should start to see a decline over time. So can we give municipalities something that might invite them to knock on the door of the City of Barrie and say, how did you do it? Did you see any increase in liability along the way or not? And to feel like they can do something versus nothing, or that might be too abstract from a policy and legislative approach, that it doesn't change what they can actually affect around changing practices that can be maybe more reasonably done tomorrow, and then it becomes more of a training and communications campaign.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Excellent question, for which I don't have an excellent answer, I'm afraid. There is a research group at Toronto Metropolitan University doing some modeling for us right now to try to answer that question. If we want to maintain a healthy and sustainable lake, how much salt can we absorb, essentially? We don't have an answer to that question yet, but the thought behind that was we could maybe provide some advice to municipalities or contractors in terms of where to set that bar. The thought that hadn't occurred to me until you just posed the question is to use groups like Barrie as a leading example, to say, as Councillor Rickman said, if you've reduced your salt use by 66%, thereabouts, that's a great example. And how do we compare that to others in the watershed, either private sector or public sector? So I do think over the coming years, there might be something there. In the shorter term, I do think public education is important, right? Because until I started turning my mind to this, I wasn't aware that salt was an environmental issue. It's kind of invisible in a sense, and people don't think about it. They just think about whether they can get to and from work and the condition of the roads. So we've been starting to talk to communication staff in municipalities around the watershed on how we can kind of share resources around public education. And so I know Barrie staff are involved in those conversations that are just now starting. So I think anything we can do between municipalities and the watershed to reinforce each other's messages to the public is an early win for us.
Next couple of questions. Great to hear that. But again, yeah, anything even about like a percentage change could be seen if we collectively adjust, and maybe these are the municipalities in particular that you want to at least target with that have a relationship into some of those waterway systems. The other one might be more of a redirection to staff, because what I'm hearing, Ms. Steinmart, is we've got this beautiful salt use management plan, and we do smart about salt training that we offer for free. So I see that as it's kind of we invite you to the table to do it, but there's no requirement on contracted staff to be taking the training. Could that change, or is there a way to further force leverage on what's being made available to them?
Through you, Chair Hamilton, to Councillor Kungle. So Mr. Ferrari tells me that our contractors are like city staff. So we have a risk management plan that looks at how much salt the city uses. Our contractors are monitored and they adhere to the same practices if they were a city employee, and they take that direction from our forepersons. So they do the same thing. I'm not sure facilities does the parking lots. I'm not sure what their practices are, but for the roads, that's what we do.
And thank you through you. Thank you, Dave. So I guess my final comments all in with that is, sounds like there's a really great opportunity, one, if we haven't, to kind of showcase what we're doing and use that communications to bring other municipalities along. Maybe invite your public stakeholders to be ambassadors. So get a decal on the door, do the free training, become a champion. You build that pressure point around bringing other people along with you when you can show how you practice independently too. And then lastly, my only thought is AMO from a policy standpoint around some of the guidance there. And if you can, I know it talks about liability and insurance in different frameworks, and sometimes that might stop people before they are brought along into moving towards doing something versus nothing, or just the passive approach to signing, but not really looking at just taking a step forward that might be quite easy to do. But I wish you well in that. I hope it goes through. But I think there's also great ways in which maybe we can bring people along in addition to that through different outreach. Happy to help where I can.
Okay, and I think one final question from Councillor Corser.
I guess it's just more of a, through you, Chair, sorry, it's just more of a comment generally. I just wanted to ensure that having this conversation is kind of at a timely this winter because we are having a salt shortage. So I wouldn't want anyone to misconstrue that we are having this conversation and this is any relation to the road conditions. We are on an outlier year where we are having challenges actually getting any salt onto our roads. So this is not a conversation about, this is not related to the road conditions this year. I just didn't want anyone to misunderstand that. Thank you.
Thank you. Good point. All right, no further questions that I'm seeing. So thank you to you both. Appreciate your time this evening.
Thanks very much for the thoughtful questions and great suggestions.
Wonderful. All right, brilliant. We will move along in the agenda to item number 6, deferred referred items. There is one referred item listed on tonight's agenda. The item was referred by General Committee meeting on November 26, 2025 concerning the Memorandum Sandbox Center Annual Report and Request. Note, there was an additional confidential staff memorandum from Director of Economic and Creative Development dated January 28, 2026 concerning a confidential trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which if disclosed could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person or group of persons. If required, a confidential memorandum. Okay. Yes, Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair Hamilton. I have a motion to put forward.
Excellent, go ahead.
Okay with that? That the request by the Sandbox to defer their maintenance 33% of the appropriate maintenance and utility where applicable in order to align their lease with the city and their 3-year business plan renew with the province be granted, and that the remittance be phased in over 2 years with 50% of the full amount applying in 2027, with the other 50% funded from the tax rate stabilization reserve, with full payment starting in 2028. And the remittance commence on April 1st, 2027, subject to the board transition support of the Regional Innovation Center and in executing lease agreement with the city. And final, actually, if you'd like, we could vote on that motion, and then I'll move the second paragraph to that if you'd like, or I can put it all in one, whatever you're comfortable with.
We'll do them separately, I think. So there's no discussion, right, unless we have to move into closed session. We're just voting on the motion as put forward.
We can vote on this in public. The only thing that if you want to discuss in camera is if you want to discuss any of the content of Ms. Schlichter's memo. Otherwise, we do not need to move in camera.
Okay, wonderful. So I'll turn it over to members of the committee first to see if they have any questions for Councillor Thompson on the motion that's in front of us. And seeing none, so we'll remain in open session, and that motion is approved upon consent.
And then, my apologies. And follow, upon receipt of the confirmation of the new Regional Innovation Board, members being appointed, Councillor Morales be appointed as a voting representative to the board, and that the Director of Economic Development be appointed to a non-voting member, and I can speak to that very briefly, just for a little bit of explanation.
Okay, and assuming he can speak to the motion in public forum as well.
Yes, you may speak to the public motion in public, but if you want to get into any details, we will have to move in camera.
Thank you for the clarification, Madam Clerk. And go ahead, Councillor Thompson.
So this is basically just reverting back to the way the original composite of the board was. Councilor Morales was appointed to the sandbox, and the Director of Economic Development was appointed while we were going through the application process. So that's been taken care of, and it's a practice that we started a little bit a couple of years ago, that staff don't sit on boards in voting positions to keep conflicts away from report writing and stuff like that. So this is just reverting back to that and appointing Councilor Morales as he was there at the beginning of the term.
Okay, thank you for that added information. I will turn it over to any members of committee to see if they have any questions or comments. And seeing none, we will go ahead and vote on the motion on the floor. All those in favor, yes. And that passes on consent as well. All right, I think that was the last item on our agenda, so I will...
We're going to begin tonight with one of our favorite moments, which is hearing from our student mayors. For those of you who don't know, we have a student mayor program here in the city of Barrie. Schools that decide to participate, one student is chosen as the student mayor. They're able to join us for a few weeks at a time. And tonight we're going to hear from student mayor Sarah Anish of Steele Street Public Elementary School. Sarah was sworn into office on December 10th, and thanks to a Christmas break, got probably the longest term of office I've seen for a student mayor, 7 weeks. And I'd like to invite you to the desk right now to make some comments.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Nish, and today marks my last day as student mayor. Before I start, I would like to thank a few people. Firstly, my school, Steele Street, especially my teacher, Mr. Bodanis, Mr. Kane, Miss Newbern, and Miss Crawford, for choosing me as student mayor and giving me this opportunity, supporting me. I would also like to thank my parents for always supporting me, encouraging me, and believing in me throughout this experience. Next, Mayor Nuttall, Deputy Mayor Thompson, and the rest of the City Council for being so warm and welcoming, and for clearly explaining things when I didn't understand some of the more complex ideas. My last thank you goes to the Fire Chief Director of Emergency Services, Kevin White, for inviting me and a few friends to learn about and explore the fire department. It gave me a first-hand look at the planning it takes to keep our community safe. When I first walked into City Chamber, I was anxious and unsure of what to expect. Everyone was so confident and polished, yet enthusiastic and ready to share. This experience has given me a deeper understanding of how things work, how opinions are shared and considered, and how discussions lead to actions. I really enjoy this valuable insight, and it has me thinking more about our community and how it functions. I hope to share everything I've learned with my peers. Responsibility and teamwork play an important role in leadership. This experience has helped me grow as a person. I've gained confidence and learned how much teamwork and effort it takes to make things happen in our community. Being student mayor has given me a chance to see our city in a completely new way. I've met people who are passionate about helping others, seen the planning that goes into keeping our community safe, and understood how much time and care goes into even the smallest projects. It's made me appreciate the work so much more that many people do every day and how everyone's efforts come together to make our community stronger. Looking back, this experience has shown me how connected we all are in making our community work. It's not just about the big things or plans, but it's also about the little moments, the people that listen, the growing ideas, communication, and the dedication behind the scenes. I feel lucky to have had a chance to be part of that. I'm honored and grateful for the opportunity to learn from this role. I will carry these lessons forward as I work to create a positive change in my community, collaborate with others, and help make Barrie a place where people are proud and happy to go home. Thank you.
Well, Sarah, thank you for your fantastic comments. As you can see, and we see this every single time that we have a student mayor, the future is very, very, very bright. And your speech was very, very eloquently done. One of the programs, if your child's school, if you're here and your child's school is not part of the program, please, as parents, ask to be, because I think it's a pretty unique opportunity. And I always tell people this, especially when you're sworn in, Sarah will remember this, is that both Councillor Morales and myself went through the student mayor program when we were in school in Barrie as well. So served its purpose for us for sure. Now, Sarah, you can stay or you can go and do your homework at home, but the invitation is out for either. We're going to move past the student mayor portion into the confirmation of the minutes for the council meeting on December 10th and the other council meeting on December 23rd. They've been circulated. Are there any questions or corrections that need to be identified? Seeing none, they are adopted as printed and circulated. We are at this point going to move into awards and recognition. And there's one set of awards here tonight, and this is recognition of 16 Barrie youths for their exceptional achievements in music. Certainly, we'd like the opportunity to say congratulations on behalf of the City of Barrie, on behalf of Council, and certainly on behalf of the people of Barrie. But to tell us a little bit more before we fully go through that, I'd like to invite Lise Bulow, Festival Director for the Barrie Kiwanis Music Festival, to the podium to say a few words before we hand out the certificates together. Lise, I believe it's on and ready for you.
Council. I'd like to thank the council and the staff at the City of Barrie for bringing this recognition to these outstanding musicians who have represented our city so well on the provincial and national stage this past season. The students that are going to get recognized tonight are students who are gold medalists at the provincial finals and students who went on to the national finals. And I would also like to thank Scott Boyer, who is a great friend to music education in the city, who has made this recognition possible as well. These 15 fine young people are just a small sampling of the amazing 400 plus competitors who shared their talents at last April's Barrie Kiwanis Music Festival. Many qualified to go on to the provincial and national levels. We had 84 students represent the Barrie Kiwanis Music Festival at the Ontario Music Festivals Association Provincial Finals, and 10 who earned the right to participate in the local stream qualifying round of the Federation of Canadian Music Festivals, which is the qualifying step to earn an invitation to nationals. Of those 10 that participated in the LSQR of the National Festival, 6 were successful in earning that national invitation. Our Barrie music students perform exceptionally well on the provincial and national stage, and that is in no small part thanks to the incredible teachers that we have in the city who nurture the development of these students. And of course, the big shout out also has to go to the families that support the students, not only in bearing witness to the many hours of practice they put in each day, and I can attest to that. I know how happy my sister always was when I was practicing every day, but also in supporting them as they seek out new opportunities and constantly strive to improve. For our part at the Barrie Kiwanis Music Festival, we're so proud of these students, and we look forward to continuing to find ways to give our small town Barrie students the big city experiences and exposure they need and are certainly living up to by bringing in top-notch adjudicators and clinicians who can provide excellent learning, allowing the students to continue to feed their growth. Students, a huge congratulations to all of you. Yeah, I've got the, okay. So we're going to call each of the students up one at a time, and Mayor Nuttall's going to do the presentations here. So we'll start with Natalie Bianchi. And Natalie was a first place winner at the OMFA Provincial Finals as part of an amazing musical theater quintet that won in the 16 and under category. Summer Fallis has a list of accolades here. She was the first place winner at the OMFA Provincial Finals in intermediate voice, also the first place winner in musical theater duets, and won second place in the local string qualifying round at the FCMF Nationals, which gave her the right to go on and participate in the developing artist stream in musical theater. Sarah Ford was first place winner at OMFA Provincials in the Songs from the Screen and More junior age category. Mia Graytrix was the first place winner at the OMFA Provincials in musical theater duets, 17 and 18 years old, was also recommended to the LSQR where she finished second place, advancing her to the FCMF Nationals in the musical theater emerging artist category. Ella Hamilton Ella won first place in the OMFA Provincials in musical theater duets, ages 17 and 18, and also first place in the OMFA Provincials for the musical theater quintet. Delilah Johnstone. Delilah was also a member of that amazing quintet that won provincials, OMFA Provincials in musical theater ensembles. Jasper Lash. I think we're almost up to 5 members of that quintet. Jasper was another. Leonard Ray Leahy. First place winner in OMFA Provincials in level 1 violin. Maya McNair. You can walk slowly, Maya. Maya was the first place winner in the OMFA Provincials in intermediate songs from the screen and more. First place winner in the OMFA Provincials in musical theater ensembles, 16 and under. She was also an LSQR qualifier to the developing artist stream in the national finals, where she won first place in the national finals. Payden McNeil. Payden was a first place winner at the OMFA Provincials in musical theater duets, age 15 and 16. Tia Naninga. Tia was the first place winner in the OMFA Provincials in senior self-accompanied popular voice. So that means she was not only singing, but also accompanying herself on guitar and piano. Ellie Naylor. Ellie was the first place winner at the LSQR in developing artist voice, which earned her the right to go on to the national finals. Adreet Panda, and Adreet's award is being received by his dad, Gustav. Adreet was the first place winner in the local stream qualifying round for the nationals in the emerging artist voice, and got to spend an amazing week in New Brunswick as a nationals competitor in the emerging artist stream. Lily Tang. Lily was the first place winner in the ONFA Provincials in piano level 3. And Madison Wilkie. Madison earned the invitation to compete in the local stream qualifying round, earning second place, and an invitation to compete at the FCMF Nationals in the Developing Artist Stream in Strings.
So, Lise, could we invite all of our winners up and we'll take a group photo together? I think that'd probably be good for the parents as well, because I might have moved a little too quickly in there.
That's okay.
I don't get accused of that very often, so.
Come on up, bring your certificates.
We can do it right here. Council, do you want to join in for a photo? Here? So before everyone leaves, we can just hold for 1 second here, because I know there's lots of folks here. Lise, if you could pass everybody's thanks and applause on to Kiwanis, obviously, for making all of that happen. None of this would be possible without you. So please, can we give a round of applause to our Kiwanis? And finally, the talented people in the room don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting. So you can definitely leave. We'll just take about a 30-second break. If you'd like to stay, we'd love to have you. If you don't want to, that's okay as well. We won't take it personally. All right, folks, we're going to bring it back to the General Committee meeting. And I just have a quick question for Sarah, our student mayor. Sarah, what do we have to do to make City Hall cooler than the fire department? There's nothing we can do. I just saw it in her eyes. She said, there's nothing you can do to be as cool as firefighters. I will take the silence as a resounding, alarming insult, quite frankly. I'm kidding, Sarah. Okay, so we're going to move on to the committee reports. So, Deputy Mayor, it's over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Harris. The following matter listed on General Committee report dated January 21st, 2026, now circulated, be adopted.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to members of council, the cameras on the screens are not working this evening, and we're having some issues with Zoom for Councillor Harvey, and we've made him aware. Thank you.
Will we be able to ensure that it's still on afterwards?
To Mayor Nuttall, members of council, we are still on YouTube. Yes, it's just internal cameras that are not working.
Perfect. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Harris, that the following matters listed on the General Committee report dated January 21st, 2026, now circulated to be adopted. DEV-002-2026, the zoning bylaw amendment for 1080 Lockhart Road. DEV-003-2026, zoning bylaw amendment for 89 Big Bay Point Road. DEV-004-2026, zoning bylaw amendment 979 and 989, Mapleview Drive East. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the motion? Yes, Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall, and through you, just a quick question directed to Ms. Banfield that I failed to discuss last General Committee, but we did have a good dialogue afterwards, and I'd be remiss, I think, not to mention it here for those watching. So very supportive, and this is in regards to the zoning bylaw amendment 1080 Lockhart Road. Very supportive, obviously, of the growth that's occurring in that area. But just some questions and I think lessons learned, especially this past winter with existing communities that are high density, smaller footprint areas. And some of the challenges we've experienced this winter, like snow lifts being one example, parking being an example, and some of the limitations that we've experienced, and wanting to make sure that we don't duplicate some of these existing challenges that we're seeing in new developments, where again, we're looking at higher density properties, so smaller footprints. So I wanted to direct to Ms. Banfield what staff has done or what considerations have been in place just to make sure that we don't end up with the same kind of headaches that we're seeing right now in Barrie South and in our newer development areas.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Hamilton. So effectively, the draft plan that you've referenced doesn't have any of the same standards that the previous subdivisions were developed under. So you're not recreating or approving subdivisions that have the same road width. So some of the differences, I'll just do a quick bullet point, like the laneways themselves are wider. In most cases, there are single detached homes. The plan is for single detached homes, and where they're actually for townhouses, they're actually 2 meters wider than the townhouses in some of the other areas, as well as the driveways are only going to be on one side of this laneway that is already larger, so that's going to provide more room there as well for snow and snow storage and make snow removal more regular, I guess, if you will, and as well on either side of the driveways. In the zoning bylaw, there's been the inclusion of a landscape strip on both sides of the driveway, which would then also increase the land available for some snow storage. So essentially, the subdivisions that you're talking about, these ones aren't being built to the same standards, and those were the things, the bullet list that I went through are kind of some of the key differences.
Perfect. Thank you for that. I know there was no real public meeting held for this because there's not a lot of development in the immediate area. So I do think it's important because we have received a lot of resident feedback, since I've been on term here and some of these new developments. And so I just want to thank staff for really taking into consideration the input, changing some of our standards to make sure, because we don't always get it right, but to make sure that we get it right going forward. So thank you to Ms. Banfield and her team. And thanks again for highlighting some of the changes that we've made over the years.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. Are there any other questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, someone call the vote. All those in favor? It carries. Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Harris. The following matters on this list of General Committee report dated January 21st, 2026, now circulated, be adopted.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Harris, that the following matter listed on the General Committee report dated January 21st, 2026, now circulated, be adopted. CCS 001-2026, confidential personal information matter, Barrie Public Library Board appointment. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? It carries. Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Harris, that the following matter listed on the General Committee report dated January 28, 2026 be adopted.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Harris, that the following matter listed on General Committee report dated January 28, 2026 be adopted. Confidential position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board municipal lands. Any questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it carries. Next.
Yeah, sorry. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Hamilton that the following matter listed on General Committee report dated January 21st, 2026, now circulated, be adopted. CCS 002-2026 Victoria Village Loan Guarantee Request. There's a note that Mayor Noddle has declared a conflict on this matter.
Madam Clerk, could you please note that I have a potential pecuniary interest in the matter, as my mother is a resident at Victoria Village, so I will vacate the chair, but I will not leave the chambers. And could you just confirm that that's been noted?
Yes, Mayor Nuttall, your conflict's been noted.
Thank you so much.
Madam Clerk, has the mayor's conflict been noted?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Thompson, it's been noted.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Harris, second by Councillor Hamilton, the following matter listed on the General Committee report dated January 21st, 2026, now circulated, be adopted. CCS 002-2026 Victoria Village Loan Guarantee Request. Any comments from council? Seeing none, I call the vote. Passes.
Okay, before we jump into announcements, there is a, is there a direct motion? There is a direct motion, so we're going to go to direct motions at this point. Deputy Mayor, that is you, not you. Councillor Nixon, that is you.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Kungal. I have a direct motion I would like to put on the floor. It is. Motion without notice, waste collection in the BIA area. That pursuant to Section 7.1 of Procedural Bylaw 2019-100 as amended, permission be granted to introduce a motion without notice concerning waste collection in the BIA area.
It's moved by Councillor Nixon and seconded by Councillor Kungal for a motion without notice, waste collection BIA area. That pursuant to Section 7.1 of the Procedural Bylaw 2019-100 as amended, permission be granted to introduce a motion without notice concerning waste collection in the BIA area. This motion is not debatable, requires 2/3 majority to pass, so all those in favor? It carries. And over to you, Councillor Nixon.
Thank you. Again, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kungal. Waste collection in the BIA area. That notwithstanding the procurement bylaw, staff immediately procure additional waste collection services as a pilot to address problematic areas within the BIA, including but not limited to 7-day-a-week waste collection of public space bins, as well as addressing illegal dumping and litter to be funded through the tax rate stabilization reserve. That staff engage with the BIA concerning waste issues in the BIA, and that staff report back to General Committee concerning the results of the pilot, engagement with the BIA, and an implementation plan to improve waste collection within the BIA. And I can speak to this. First of all,
Sorry, Councillor,
I
just one moment
can't
here.
speak to it yet.
You will be able to 100%. He really wants to deal with this issue, and I agree. It's moved by Councillor Nixon and seconded by Councillor Kungl. Waste collection BIA area. The notwithstanding the procurement bylaw, staff immediately procure additional waste collection services as a pilot to address problematic areas within the BIA, including but not limited to 7-day a week waste collection of public space bins, as well as addressing illegal dumping and litter to be funded through the tax rate stabilization reserve. The staff engage with the BIA concerning waste issues in the BIA, and the staff report back to General Committee concerning the results of the pilot engagement and engagement with the BIA, as well as an implementation plan to improve waste collection within the BIA. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank staff, including Ms. Dimert, Ms. Mack, and their team, for the work that has been going on for the last several weeks, months behind the scenes. This direct motion is more of, I think, a procedural matter to get things done. And it's interesting. One of the things that I hear from many people, many business owners downtown and residents who visit the downtown area from all over the city is that they tell me that they are very happy with so many things that this council has done to revitalize the downtown. We have spent untolds of tens of millions of dollars, not counting, or the Performing Arts Center. There's many different examples. I'm not going to go into all of them, but people are very happy with the initiatives and the progress that we have made. And yet, one issue kind of still remains that you would think is a fairly simple solution. It's garbage, pick it up. But we all know that the downtown is a little different. The implementation of the rollout carts, we all know that there have been some challenges. And we know the staff's working through it. But those challenges remain, and there's nothing more frustrating for myself, and I think the rest of us, is that we do all these major things, and which are many steps forward, but then it seems that this is a step backwards. So I think if we're going to go through with all those other things, we need to address this, and I appreciate the opportunity to bring it forward, and I appreciate the efforts the staff are making to make this happen.
Thank you, Councillor, and certainly this is something that we've heard consistently over the last little while with regards to cleanup in the downtown. Are there any questions or comments from members? I'm going to go to Deputy Mayor Thompson first, then I'll go to Councillor Reitma following. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall, and maybe through you to the mover of the motion, or maybe if he would like to ask staff, but I didn't hear a ceiling. Is there a ceiling on this, like in the amount? I understand it's a pilot, but do we have a rough idea? Moving a direct motion without a ceiling, if we're going to, contractors and stuff, leaves us a little bit vulnerable. I was just wondering if there would be a ceiling on the budget.
I can speak to that, thank you. The direct motion does not give a maximum dollar amount to be spent on this. The direct motion kind of requests that staff come back with some possibilities and costs involved. So, it would be going to the contractors. We don't know what those amounts are yet. We're not giving approval to go ahead and do it. We're giving approval to investigate and come back to council with some possible solutions and costs of them. And at that point, we would know and discuss and vote accordingly.
Just a follow-up, Mayor Nuttall. Sorry, and I apologize. Maybe I misread the direct motion, but it sounds like we were going to, notwithstanding the procurement bylaw, like we were going to go to a contractor to have this service provided as a pilot. But are you saying that this is just to give delegated authority to staff to go out and look at the options of this service? I'm fully supportive of the direction to investigate. Mayor Nuttall?
Yeah, so just to clear, so what's written here is that we go procure the services, not for staff to go and do and come back. I would probably vote, just so everyone's on the same page, I would vote against staff coming back. I do want this to just be done. I think that there's a fair degree of frustration around this table, but certainly reflected in the public on this. And I think that Ms. Mack is already also looking at what can be done. So it still requires council approval, which is hence this evening. And so, Ms. Mack, can you give us an idea of a dollar amount, or can somebody give us an idea of a dollar amount, or is it, not yet known?
To you, Mayor Nuttall, we have some initial pricing. So we've done our first step in this is to really look at our existing curbside contractor. So maybe as some background, we actually, within our existing budget, pay for the public space containers to be collected every day. So, those are the litter bins that are down within the downtown area. There's just over 30 of them. What we pay for does not include the extra garbage around there. It does not include litter cleanup, and it also doesn't include Saturday and Sunday. So we have some initial pricing on the weekend collection. I haven't had a chance to go through it. I can tell you that it is going to be significantly more than we pay for the public space containers to be collected during the week on the regular routes. I'm pleased, at the direction of council to bring an estimate on that first piece of the motion for a period of time. For a pilot, let's say it's 6 months, if council would like some costs ahead of that.
Thank you. Mr. Prowse, one, can you give us a recommendation on how to proceed? Because we don't do blank checks. We need to figure that out, but we want to move quickly. So that'll be the first question. Two, can you just answer if just hiring a couple of people for the city that deal with the downtown garbage, that type of stuff, is potentially a less expensive route than going through contractors?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to members of council. Well, financially, it probably is less expensive, Mayor Nuttall. Operationally, it's quite problematic. We have existing contracts, multitudes of existing contracts. So getting Jim and Jeff to go down there with their pickup truck to pick up garbage just really isn't a viable solution.
That's exactly what I was thinking, by the way, just to be clear.
And it may not be Jim and Jeff for you, yeah, I understand that.
I haven't met Jim and Jeff yet, but I'm hoping they can do the work.
So what I would suggest to council by way of a path forward, I think the motion that's on the floor is pretty clear to me. It's pretty clear to staff. It's go do. I think council concerned about the cost is fair. I think Ms. Mack has just said she's got some initial information. What I would suggest is if council is interested in this, pass this motion tonight. Our commitment is we'll provide a memo back on what we believe the estimated cost to be, but that will still allow staff to move forward unless council, pulls back on the reins, and that way we won't lose any time. I think part of the issue with this issue is it's not one issue. This is a multi-layered problem. It has existed for a long time. It certainly has gotten more complex. Combination of weather, combination of carts, combination of tenants, and there's a whole bunch of issues here that Ms. Mack is attempting to deal with. So I think it's going to be probably a multi-layered solution because it's a multi-layered problem. So if council is comfortable with that, I would suggest to pass the motion tonight, and our commitment is we'll report back on costs via memo so you've got full visibility and can hold us accountable to that.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And that's a little more of my comfort level and stuff. I was just, and maybe through you, Mayor Nuttall, or through my CAO Prowse to Ms. Mack. Is there a provision in the contract? I know some tenders are written with like a Schedule A of extra work order kind of. So the frequency is twice a week. Is there a Schedule A where we could ask the contractor if they would go on that rate instead of just opening it up and use like the extra work order kind of rates where if you ask a contractor to do X, Y, there's already a set Schedule A pricing. Is that a viable option, or maybe the tender wasn't written that way, which is sometimes.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Deputy Mayor Thompson. In this case, this is actually fairly removed from the existing terms of the contract, that being weekend collection, specifically to that. And also, if you look at the public space bins, they were really intended to, dump the liners and deal with the litter, not to manually collect the bags of garbage around there. So where I'm going with this is that it would be considered by us to be an amendment, that there isn't anything within the existing contract that would be close that we could draw on in terms of pricing immediately.
Thank you for that. So hearing what CAO Proust has said, I would support this. Like I said, I understand that there's an issue with carts, and Mayor Nuttall had commented that right at the onset of the deliver of these, just in the downtown, not throughout the city, because to be honest, the delivery of the carts throughout the city has been very received well. There was a little bit of fear of the unknown. So it's just when the person who loves garbage says it's going to be very expensive, makes me a little nervous because you deal with it and stuff. And I understand that Councillor Nixon has been dealing with this on an ongoing basis, and we all see the challenges for those who go downtown, and we are seeing it firsthand. So I will support it with the direction of the CAO, given a memo that we can wrap our heads around pricing prior to jumping in the deep end.
Okay. I'm going to go to Councillor Rietma, and then I'm going to go to Councillor Corser, then Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I think my questions have been answered, but this has been an issue for a long, long time, and I'm really glad to see that we're moving ahead with trying to solve it, and this is probably a really good way to solve it. I'm quite supportive, given Mr. Prowse's commitment. I guess the one question that I still had was, and I think I heard the answer, but I wasn't 100% sure, was how long are we going to do this? And I heard 6 months, but that I just want, if you can confirm that, then that helps me.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Rietma. Perhaps, 6 months for as we get to understand the cause of the dumping per se, but I can tell you the team is already working on a lot of the solutions or some of the things that we actually feel we can look into immediately. So I would envision that we probably could bring something forward, let's say by March. If I can give some examples to that, because we talked a little bit about them last week, things like containment for the carts, garages, looking at the public space containers and different designs, that is already in the works. So I don't want you to think that, this is kind of an extended period of time. We're hoping to bring something forward fairly quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mack. Thank you, Councillor Rietma. I have Councillor Corser, and then I've got Harris.
Hi, thank you. Through the Mayor to Ms. Mack. My concern is enforcement, because obviously this is an ongoing issue with the carts, but as well as litter itself and illegal dumping. And it's a shame and it's awful, and you think people would have more respect for our city than that. But you had mentioned previous about enforcement of that, moving forward with enforcement of that. Can you speak at all? Would it be smart to speak publicly about what kind of actions will be taken? Or is that something that you'd like to keep on the lowdown for now?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser. I have a whole list, really, of, as we look into the causes and the tools that we can use to correct those. Obviously, enforcement for us is part of it, right? So we're seeing illegal dumping, we're seeing that we're not aligning with the bylaw. I think for the team here first is to understand, why is it that we have properties that aren't registered? Do they not know about the registration? We always like to work on that education piece and to understand the why before we get to the enforcement. We look at, the public space containers and scavenging and dumping beside them. Is there a different design of the container that will help? So not that I don't want to talk about the enforcement piece. I think we have a lot of work to do to understand the system before we get to there.
Yeah, just thinking that maybe that would mitigate a lot of the issues in the short term, but I guess, like you said, a lot of investigations, a lot of different layers to this that needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corser. Councillor Harris's question has now been answered, so we're going to jump past Councillor Harris. Any other questions or comments from those who haven't spoken? Seeing none. Folks, I think that we are investing heavily in downtown. And Deputy Mayor Thompson always talks about the broken window concept, if that's the right term. It would be a shame to spend so much money on all of the incredible things, whether you are a young person going to college, university, a CEO or somebody finding a job downtown, a senior going to an opera or theater performance, and all of those folks walking past garbage because of some disrespectful people. We can't, it's very frustrating. We can't legislate people not to do things like this. And it's incredibly frustrating. And if I were to maybe quote our CAO from a long time ago, he's gonna agree that he said this, but probably wish I didn't say it. You can't legislate stupid. And it is very, very, very stupid of people to throw their garbage on the side of the road. It's disrespectful, it's wrong, and we need to figure it out. So we had a meeting this week where Ms. Mack was in with our downtown, a couple from downtown and a resident roundtable who, actually they weren't even from downtown, they were from Ward 10, who were in about downtown talking about garbage. And that's how widespread it is. When we're going into Southeast Barrie and they're coming in for resident meetings to talk about the garbage, like this isn't a downtown resident issue, this is a Barrie issue. And so I hope we get an answer. It won't be one answer, as both the CAO and Ms. Mack have said, but this is the first step. So Councillor Nixon, thank you for bringing it forward. I know you've heard a lot about it. And just thank you for taking this step. This is going to eliminate a step in the future that would have been coming back to council to get something done. So this means it can happen quicker, faster, and hopefully more fruitfully. So with that, we'll call the vote. All those in favor of the direct motion? And it carries unanimously. Councillor Harvey, I can't see you. So I can now.
I also voted in favor.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. And Councillor Harvey, thank you again. I should have noted that you were joining us online earlier, and I forgot to, so I apologize. But I know you've been here the entire time, so thank you, Councillor Harvey. With that, we're going to go to inquiries. So we'll start with Councillor Harvey. Do you have any inquiries, Councillor?
I do not.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
I have none.
Any members of council have inquiries this evening? How about announcements, Deputy Mayor?
I have none.
You have none. And Councillor Corser? Okay. Councillor Nixon?
Absolutely. One quick announcement. I know that everyone in this city and this province is fed up with winter, and we've seen enough. There's more to come. But just on a little bright note to put in your calendars that I believe about 12 and a half weeks from now will be the 4th annual Home Runs for the Hungry community baseball game. So spring is coming. We're not far away. Mark your calendars, and I'm sure I'll be mentioning it at some time down the road. Thank you.
I heard that you're actually not using baseballs this year, you're using snowballs.
Dave's online. He said the snowball, no, but.
Yeah, Councillor Kungle.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Nuttall, I do have 3 announcements. I'll keep them brief, but one in particular, I'll start off that's specific to all residents of Barrie, if I may say. On behalf, we're hoping that members of council and the public and other stakeholders can help to get the message out. We're hearing through our local health system that we have several new physicians that have joined. So we are now seeing a very exceptional rostering of individuals who did not have a physician or nurse practitioner. So to that end, if you do not have access to primary care, a physician or nurse practitioner, please call 811 or go online to Health 811 with your health card. They are actively registering people. So get on the list. And we are seeing over 2,500 individuals have been successfully matched, and we have room for more. So especially for residents of Barrie, postal codes Lima for Michael or Lima for Nancy, do call 811, get connected. This is exceptional news for Barrie, but there's a lot of access that has just opened up.
Before
That's
your
one.
second announcement,
Yeah.
Bob and all the media, Stephen, please report that.
Yes, please.
This has been a constant issue for the last, well, as far as I can remember back. I think the 2003 council created the Physician Recruitment Task Force to deal with the shortage of family doctors, and the information we're receiving through this, and I think there's a campaign coming in terms of marketing, is that we now have enough doctors, which is unheard of. So to that, anyone who's put work into that, great work.
Yeah, that's good. And to echo that, there is a full communication campaign coming out in the next couple of weeks. I understand that. I know Councillor Harris and I have had the privilege of being connected to the Barrie and Ontario Health Team. So you will receive that when you do see that, or if you're an area that can host information, please do share that. My second announcement is really just a very a point of note and a thank you to Carl Caldera with the Barrie Legion. Again, he has taken the initiative to partner with all of our school boards, and we have the Youth Heritage Awards coming up. So I'm very pleased to be with 31 students and their families on February the 3rd at 5:30 to celebrate that, and hoping that maybe we can have a couple of them that might showcase some of their work, be it poetry, art, and otherwise, maybe through some heritage recognition opportunities. Lastly, my thanks to the team here around forestry. Ward 3 specifically, we have pruning happening that's starting next week. I think Ward 3 was one of the heaviest hit or loss of tree canopy from the ice storm. I have had a lot of questions about that because not all the pruning, of course, was able to be done. Over almost 3,000 trees are planned for pruning. So you will be getting door hangers, and starting next week and for the following couple of weeks, Ward 3 will be very active around having a tree service coming in to prune and check your trees. If you do have questions, please make sure you don't throw the door hanger out, recycle it later. But there's important information there. I know some of you have had questions about status and when and how trees will be removed. This is not your personal trees. These are the trees on the boulevard between the curb on city property before your private residential boundary starts.
Thank you, Councillor Kungle. Any other announcements? I'm seeing none. I've just got a few to go through here. Let's start with the fun stuff. We're pleased to announce the city's Access Barrie Marketing and Communications Department has been awarded with 5 Marcom Awards and 1 Video Award in the following categories. The Platinum Marcom Award for the Start Your Carts campaign, the final phase of the city's curbside collection program changes. So congratulations to the team on that. The Gold Marcom Award for the Waste Cart Hanger for Start Your Carts in the category of marketing promotion materials. Gold Marcom Award for the License to Ride campaign program in the category of advertising campaign, Gold Marcom Award for the investment video in the category government video film, an honorable mention for the Barrie Sports Hall of Fame flags in the category of outdoor advertising and marketing, and a Platinum Video Award for Barrie's Allendale Transit Terminal video in the category non-broadcast short-form web video event. So if you'll join me in giving an applause to our team. And I know, Ms. James Reed, you will pass that on to the rest of the team, who I'm sure are actually just watching at home right now. So maybe you don't have to, but in case they're not, if you could pass it on, that would be amazing. That concludes my announcements, so I'm going to go over to the Deputy Mayor for bylaws.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Harris. Leave be granted to introduce the following bills, and these bills be read a first, second, and third time this day and finally passed. Bill 1 to Bill 12.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Harris, that leave be granted to introduce the following bills, and these bills be read a first, second, and third time this day and finally passed. Bills 001 to 012. Any questions or comments from members of council? I'm seeing none. All those in favor? It carries. Deputy Mayor, is that you? I think it's you next.
Yeah, I'm just going to start.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I had to flip the page. That wasn't your fault. That was mine.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Harris. Leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be read a first, second, and third time on this day and finally passed. Bill 13.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Harris, the confirmation bylaw that leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be read a first, second, and third time this day and finally passed. Bill 013. It's confirmation bylaw. Any questions or comments? I'm seeing none. All in favor? It carries. Motion adjourned from Deputy Mayor Thompson. Do I have a seconder? I've got Councillor Rietma. All in favor? It carries.